Hello, check. 5 years ago, I was on a really long flight from Newark, New Jersey to Hong Kong, and instantly the guy next to me started talking about how great New Jersey was, that he had deer in his backyard, and it was the Garden State for a reason, and he was going on and on and on. After 45 minutes of this, I was like, dude, I'm from Detroit. And he said, well, why didn't you say so? And he opened his magazine and started reading it. And then I realized that we in Detroit are the victims of snobbery, where people have taken a very small part of who we are and used it to understand everything about us. So this talk, if we can start the slides, is about really how excellence has killed Detroit. So what I'm going to do is pretty much juxtapose all the energy we feel coming out of Silicon Valley with what happened in Detroit at the turn of the century, and hopefully we can learn a few things or teach a few things about that. So what we're going to see here is a map of Twitter a year and a half after it launched. Blue cities have not achieved critical mass yet, red cities have. You'll notice that Silicon Valley, all the cities in Silicon Valley achieved critical mass early on. This is what California does, right? They create the technology and they have a really strong culture of adopting the technology and figuring out what it means for civilization. You could draw that same exact map for Instagram all the way back to eBay and it would look almost exactly the same. So we love this stuff, right? When Facebook pays $1 billion for Instagram, as Americans, we eat it up. It's just crazy exuberance about irrationality and what innovation is all about. And we inspire the world with it. So if we just shortcut this, essentially the internet is from California. So hold on to that thought for 1 second, because we're going to talk about Detroit and how this ties back in. So most people have an understanding of Detroit, which is like almost mythological. It looks a little bit like this. Somewhere back in time, we invented the car, and we made a bunch of millionaires who ate Coney dogs, listened to Motown music, and then the riot happened in 1967, and now we have all poverty, no grocery stores, we listen to white rappers, and at some point we're going to turn off the lights of this place. But history is actually much more colorful than this. How it really looks is 3 distinct eras, right? We were a French village for 150 years, the Paris of the West for 50 years, and the last 100 years has been about this brave new world. And we're going to deal in, I want to focus on Brave New World, but we're going to take 2 slides to talk about the previous 2 eras. Very famous observer of culture, Alex de Tocqueville, was here in 1831. He arrived in Detroit after hanging out with the boring Puritans on the East Coast, and he loved Detroit because it reminded him of his hometown in France. He thought we were like a village in Normandy, which is significant because the whole city of Detroit burnt down to the ground in 1805, so he saw a city that was only 20 years old. 1845 brought in the new era. This started with the Irish potato famine, where wave after wave of European immigrant landed here. We're going to focus on one family. William Ford emigrated from Cork Island, married a Belgian Detroiter in 1861 right here in Corktown. They gave birth to Henry Ford, who gave birth to the Model T at the very French intersection of Paquette and Beaubien. Brave New World, written by Aldous Huxley. It was set in the year 632 AF, which AF stands for Annum Ford, in the year of our Ford. If you calculate back, 0 is the year 1908. That's when the Model T was created. And this is the world we want to talk about. We all understand what mass production is about, the $5 a day, the middle class, and all that stuff. Ignore it for a second. We're going to actually talk about how things impacted technology. You can't just build a car and not change the world, because it changed the entire physical world, and all of it was invented right here. Starting with concrete. The first mile of concrete road was Woodward Avenue. The first guy to put lines on a piece of pavement to save lives and do all that stuff was the Wayne County Road Commissioner. William Potts, a Detroit cop, invented the red, yellow, green traffic light. I'm out of breath. The first underground freeway was the Davison. Subdivisions. Nothing says suburbs like subdivisions. That was created here in Detroit. Today, the biggest maker of homes in the world for subdivisions is Pulte Homes. Frosted Flakes, the Lone Ranger, Whirlpool, Amway, the Eames style of architecture, interiors with Herman Miller was all invented in Detroit and Michigan. The biggest maker of shopping malls is Alfred Taubman. CBS News said he's our most important retailer in the world. When Northland Mall was created, it was the largest mall in the world. We'll talk about who created that when we come back. Walmart is not from Michigan, but Sam Walton, before he died, said that Myers was the biggest inspiration. So in a nutshell, suburbia is from Michigan. And we did it with the same exuberance and excellence and irrational view of the world that California is doing with the internet, but we shaped the physical world, not just the virtual world. That has consequences. When the Hudson building blew up, we would demolish it, not because we sucked, but because J.L. Hudson invested in the Northland Shopping Mall, which is the biggest shopping mall on earth. When the Packard plant closed, it wasn't because Detroit sucked, it was because Cadillac kicked their ass in the same way that Google is kicking Yahoo's ass. And we closed the Michigan Central Station. It was like Facebook compared to the fax machine. Take it locally. In this neighborhood where we are right now, Corktown, the picture on top is 1930. The picture below is on the bottom. Look at all those beautiful buildings that got destroyed. It wasn't because they sucked. It was because the people in Dearborn wanted to get downtown faster, so we blew all those buildings up on the south side of the road. To make it more personal, when I left my house in Corktown 10 blocks away to get here, it was a pain in the ass. Instead of just going up this beautiful street of Brooklyn, because we're at Brooklyn and Elm, I had to go way left, cross the freeway, go way to the right, cross the lodge, come back to finally get to the Motor City Casino. And that's what happens. It's not good for the neighborhood, but it's good for the suburbs. I want to kill one myth, the 1967 riots. This is our adoption curve of suburbia. If the riots had any impact in 1967, then winning the World Series in 1968 negated it. The only impact we've had on suburban adoption is the one that just happened, the subprime mortgage crisis in 2007. Anybody that moves anywhere in the world in the next 10 years is going to check this website, walkscore.com, to see how walkable a place is. Why do I live in downtown Detroit? Because that score is 80. And if we had a pedestrian bridge to Windsor, which would be the second biggest city if it were in Michigan, that score would be 100. I love Detroit. This is a guy, James Baldwin, one of the best observers of American culture. He had this to say about the black kids of Harlem. The wonder is not that so many are ruined, but that so many survive. And that's what Detroit's all about. Thank you.